theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Rong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Suzy Rong, I love it when I hear that music play with your name in it. How are you?
Thank you, Warren. You know, one of the cringiest things is patriotism, but some days, like today, I just feel it is so nice to live in Australia.
Ah, tell us why.
Well, today's film is an Australian film.
Yes.
And being an immigrant, I just thought, wow, I can just turn on SBS for free and watch an Australian film, a small Australian film made about a queer person, you know, compared to what I grew up with, it's completely different. And also compared to what's happening in some countries overseas, it's completely different.
What was it? What sort of, if you were in Singapore now, do you reckon, would you see many sort of Singapore-made stories about a gay coming out? I mean, we've had a couple.
I think it happens. I think one turns out every couple of years. I know one recently came out last month that my friends were, one of my friends was working on, and it's, you know, it's a very, very wholesome family drama about what looks like a trans person coming out, but they've made it like, given it like an R rating, so you have to be 18 to be able to see it. They're just so sensitive still about all of that. But you know, even just maybe 10, 15 years ago, this film would never ever get made. So, you know, there is progress happening there, but, still a lot to be done.
How does it, like, is it slower than other Asian countries?
I think so. Like, they don't even have any conversations in the public sphere about marriage rights. And you know, obviously in its neighboring countries, there has been, you know, some progress, you know, in various countries like Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand. And those are very close by. But then, you know, nothing, they're not talking anything about marriage in Singapore, but you don't feel like it's like in Indonesia where you just feel like it's still never going to happen for a century. So
is it Pink Dots or is that Singapore?
Yeah, Pink Dot. I think it's marketed like a festival that happens every year. I think in June. It looks like a pride parade, but they don't give it that label. They don't want it to sound like a political movement.
Family-friendly Pink Dot. Sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Pride Festival.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this massive picnic, and everybody turns up in pink, and it's grown momentum over many years. And, I'm sure it does something. I think it does something to the psyche of the country. But, in terms of the politics, everything is still progressing at snail's pace.
Suzy, we watched an Aussie film this week on SBS On Demand, so everyone can watch it. It's called Sunflower. I love the title. What did you think of it?
The film begins with the bashing of 17-year-old Leo, who lives in suburban Melbourne. Instinctively, we know as queer people what the story is going to be about. Sunflower, now available on SBS On Demand, is indeed a predictable old tale with a typical coming-of-age motif, the nature of which we have discussed on our Tuesday chats many times before. We see Leo quietly discover his sexuality in a heteronormative world, surrounded by other teenage boys who never hesitate to put on display their despicable homophobia like a bunch of Neanderthals. It sometimes looks like we're witnessing something from the past, but just as we try to relegate Sunflower to being from a different generation, smartphones appear and we're reminded that this kind of behavior still exists in many places. The storyline is very simple, and even though I do find myself waiting for more complexity to emerge, Sunflower is exquisitely shot and sensitively edited. It is very enjoyable for its visual artistry, especially impressive for being a low-budget production. The standard of acting is high, with thoughtful performers delivering a great amount of nuance for a film that doesn't rely on a lot of dialogue to convey its messages. Filmmaker Gabriel Karuba knows exactly what every moment should achieve, and as director, he gets the job done in consistently beautiful and elegant ways. Sunflower would have meant more if it had appeared Australia 20 or 30 years ago. Culture has moved on when it comes to representation of queer experience, but it is also true that while it may feel somewhat outdated, Sunflower still speaks to something authentic and urgent. I'm glad a movie like this, with its confidence and style, was able to be made in Australia, and even though I wanted more from it, I'm happy to have seen it, and I'll recommend you do the same. Warren, isn't SBS a wonderful way to spend our tax money?
Oh, I love SBS. I remember when SBS started, was it 028 it was called. It was on 2 channels. And I think it's a great service. I love SBS. I think it's fantastic. Like you said, we can watch it. It is free. Suzy, Sunflower, it captures the thing I was thinking, it captures that awkward mix, doesn't it, of fear and freedom. You know, when you first realise that you're different, but it's scary, but you know something's not the same as the other kids, and you're sort of thinking, I'm discovering myself. Do you remember that sort of I suppose, that being torn between those two things, fear and freedom?
I love that you've paired these two sensations. I wish I had understood then that you have to confront the fear to get to the freedom. I don't think I ever knew that until much later. You know, it felt like, I guess I remember there was always the option of hiding from the fear, but you never knew. You never really understood that if you don't confront the fear, you will never taste the freedom. So it would have been nice to understand that concept. Or, yeah.
Do you when you were little? I'm thinking of my primary school years, and I wasn't sexually attracted to anyone yet, so it kind of hadn't kicked in. And we talk and we say, oh, we realise we're different. I knew something was kind of different, but the boys told me that I was gay before I even knew that I was gay. Like, they were, oh, Warren's gay. Welcome to the gay club. I can remember them saying it. I think, I always work out where it was because I remember where we lined up for assembly. And so it was grade 4, they told me that. And I had no idea what it meant. And I thought, you're telling me what? And I went home and said, this is what they said. What does that mean? And my parents sort of, I suppose, dodged it and didn't know what to say. But did you realise you were different first, or did others realise you were different?
I had very similar experiences in that other people would kind of identify something in me and call me out, obviously in very demeaning, insulting ways, and usually in kind of Chinese languages. So it wasn't gay or anything like that. And thinking back, it was an interesting conflation of meanings, because I was trying to figure out what they were saying. And then I went on a search and came across, and I think I was given my first dictionary, and then I flipped to what homosexual meant, and then it told me that, it means that you're one sex and you're attracted to another sex. And for the longest time I thought, so this is what they're they're saying. So because I read it in words, it must be true, right? So for many years I kind of followed this logic. So it was something that people identified. I wish that I paid more attention to the fact that they did say that you're like a girl. I wish there was a way for me to kind of understand that what they're saying is that I am a girl and not think that I'm anything else. But those dynamics are really confusing and really complex. It's taken me many decades to come to this point.
Suzy, I remember the fear in me started when we talk about, I suppose, fear and freedom is not only when the boys did it, but then the teachers who are meant to be our guardians, they're meant to look after us and tell the bullies off. I remember my grade 4 teacher would say, Warren, I had this good friend, his name was Matthew, would you two please stop playing with each other? We were just playing. Like, we weren't playing, like, we were just playing games and things. Stop hanging around and go and play with other boys. And I remember, I think I've mentioned this to you before, the disgust in her face. I can still see it. I could paint a picture of it. It was so horrible. And that triggered the fear button in me. That's when I became really scared and thought, I don't know what I've done wrong. What's wrong with me? My teacher is disgusted in me. What have I done? I was nothing wrong. I hadn't done anything wrong. at all. I wasn't in trouble for anything, but she was disgusted. It sent a really powerful message that you need to be scared and you need to look out for yourself.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember some teachers who were very, very uncomfortable with having a queer person, a queer young person in their presence, and some would act out in really negative ways. I would have experienced that as well. I do remember some women teachers who were extra maternal to me. I think they could see that I needed some protection, and even though I might not have associated that directly with myself being trans or queer, I knew that they knew that I was bullied for something about my identity. But because it was a different time, there was no language for them to kind of sort of communicate the dynamics that were, especially the bullying dynamics that were happening in school. But I was lucky to have encountered a few, maybe two, I remember, two women teachers who kind of extended a maternal sort of protection over me that made me feel not just protected, but also made me feel like, oh, she doesn't think there's anything wrong with me. And that was really
so lovely,
important.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
that was really
so
nice.
comforting to have those adult figures, those guardians that you know that are safe. I ended up finding comfort in one of the arts teachers, and she said, "Don't worry about him." She said, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just she used the word gentleman, but not as one word. She said, "Don't worry about it." She said, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I remember this. But the worst thing is, this teacher, Suzy, was really good friends with my parents, and we'd have to do things. Like I remember I was going skiing with them, and I didn't know. I felt terrible. I kind of thought, oh my goodness, this could bleed into my family. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And we see that in the film. I think there's a sense, isn't there, that everyone around Leo knows something is up, but nobody says it out loud. And I was thinking, how damaging can that silence be? Even when not saying anything, you're not saying anything because you want to protect them, but it's really damaging for the person who needs that protection, but too scared to ask for it.
That not saying anything, I think that's the thing that made me feel the story is a bit like from the past. So, like I said, they're using smartphones, so it looks like it's modern day, but there is a sensibility to that silence that feels like it's from the past, or maybe it's my wishful thinking, I'm not sure. Maybe also because Leo is very masculine presenting, and I think in some weird way, you think that that's a privilege that somebody can have, that they can kind of just experience the world as a masculine man and not get as much discrimination. But then on the other hand, it's also like, it seems like it's a much harder coming out because they have to make this big gesture of coming out.
It's like putting on an exoskeleton, an outside skeleton to protect you.
Yeah, but where I hardly had to come out because there was no way that I would be able to have a physicality like that. So in some ways, when I see stories like that, I'm thinking, oh, in some ways it's harder for them because everyone cannot believe that they're queer, So to come out might be this like much bigger leap for them.
Suzy, I was just thinking, as you said that, there's this concept here, isn't there? This mateship concept. I hate it. I really hate it. It's that heterosexual male, we're all mates, let's go play the footy together and all that. And it's to become one of those people. And I remember putting on the energy, putting on that front, becoming masculine, going to the gym, all these sorts of things so that I could not stand out and try and fit in and mold myself. And it consumes a lot of energy. In Singapore, where you grew up, is it similar? Do you have this Australian concept of mateship that can't be criticised, can't have its negative side commented on, and is the status quo of boys growing up at school? Do you have that? Is it as powerful in an Asian country as it is here?
I think gender types, gender qualities are extremely powerful in Singapore. It manifests itself in a different way. It is not about mateship. I think it's more directly about patriarchy, as in, act like a man, act like a woman. It works both ways. Like, women are not allowed to act like men, and men are certainly not allowed to act like women. When I first came here, I thought the mateship thing was very strange. I thought it was so strange that nobody pointed out the misogyny in the whole thing, the whole like exclusion of queer people and women, and it was hailed as a national kind of a characteristic. I thought it was so strange that people didn't pick that up. Being from a different place, that was the first thing that I saw. So I thought, like, this kind of really gender difference of how people didn't want to have the same relationship with women that they could have with men, and that was considered the best thing about Australia. I thought that was very weird to me.
But once you're on the football field, it's okay to give your male friends a big hug and squeeze.
Yeah, and the short shorts were really weird as well to me. I just thought, wow, those shorts are extremely short, and well, I love looking at them, but they were held up as these masculine archetypes.
Suzy, the AFL will be played in long pants now from next year. Suzy, I love chatting with you. We're talking about the new Australian film. It is called Sunflower. You can catch it on SBS On Demand. What are we watching next week?
Boots on Netflix is a gay military series that has compelled the USA Pentagon to issue a statement of condemnation, saying that it is woke garbage. So, of course, we'll have to check it out. If horrible people hate it, then Boots must be a good thing, but we'll know for sure when I see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.